Fox 13's Good Day. Local for you all morning long.
All right, you've got the flowers, you got the dress, the church, the food. When you add all of it up, the cost of a wedding can get really, really expensive. In some extravagant cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars. But most of us can't afford that. But it's still expensive. Financial advisor Michael Minter is here with some suggestions on what to splurge on and what you can kind of get away with for a cheaper version, right? Good morning. Good to have you.
Good to be back.
All right, first I guess you have to determine what your wants are versus what you really, really need here, right?
Planning for a wedding is very similar to planning everyday life, basically. So when I sit down with my clients as a financial advisor, that's the thing we focus on most, focusing on their budgets, their needs, their wants, their spending habits, their saving habits, so that we can invest accordingly. And so when you're planning for such a huge event like the wedding, the same should be said with a couple. The couple should really come together, look at specifically what they want. And I'd first start out by saying, develop the budget. Or let's throw that term away and create the napkin. Let's get a napkin out. And it's a great opportunity for a couple for the first time to come together financially and discuss openly how each other spends, what their needs and wants are, and do so towards your wedding now. Create a napkin whereas you list what your non-wedding expenses are, your rent, your student loans, your car insurance. Have specifically, now you can learn a little bit about each other, what you're walking into over the next lifetime ahead. And so then you really can take a look at what you can cut back on. You're at dining, going out at night. So now that you've created that budget, you can look towards your ready and say, be realistic, what the two of you really can spend on that wedding ahead.
Because weddings they are very expensive. You have some numbers about what we spend nationally and locally on a wedding, right?
It's almost like a down payment on a home, as we talked about. $20,000 to $30,000 goes into spending for a wedding. So it's wise to first prioritize, take a look at, as I always say, the early bird gets its worm. So months in advance, the two of you come together and put out a little needs versus wants column by saying, we must have this at our wedding, we don't necessarily need this at our wedding, or it'd be nice to have. So when you can list all three, you can now prioritize and specifically see how much each cost is going to be on a line-by-line basis, and understand where you can cut back on throughout the wedding, such as your venue, your cost for food, your entertainment. So now you have an out-of-season date for your wedding, or that you have your DJ, one of the family members be your DJ or video. So you can see where you can now cut back on your cost towards that large cost.
And remember, some young couples prefer to have a small gathering, possibly even elope, and there's nothing wrong with that if that's your choice, because they prefer to use the money that maybe they would have spent on a wedding, or that their parents may have spent on their wedding, to use as a down payment on a house, which is a pretty good investment most of the time.
I would say so. The smaller the venue, the smaller amount of people, the more money you'll have at the end of the day to save. But also, again, getting back to your budgets, what the two of you can work together to cut back on at the end of the wedding. I'd also then say, when you create that budget and you know specifically what you're saving for, what that amount is, put it up somewhere so you see it on a day-to-day basis. Your wedding's going to be top of mind. The reality is, when you can see those numbers together throughout that year's or months ahead's time, you can know where you're going. But it's most important when planning to establish trust. Understanding what each other spends on. Understand specifically what each other wants in life and wants to get out of the wedding, and seek guidance by maybe a financial advisor, someone like us from Mintco Financial, and say, hey, maybe it's time for the two of us to prevent what many weddings or marriages end up in, and that's divorce. We can now ahead of time learn enough about each other's financial partnership to really succeed.
Maybe decide if it is what you want to continue with, because I imagine sometimes it might not be.
Might not be the right thing. That's right.
Thanks very much, Michael. Some good advice to all the young couples and who are in love. Thanks very much.
Thanks.